Ladies and gentlemen, it is fantastic to see you. Welcome to this, the Restless and Wendy Wu Tours Japan Through the Seasons travel show. And I'm sure you will agree. What an amazing show we've just seen. Wasn't it beautiful? Can we have some thumbs up if you thought it was great? Let's see those thumbs coming up. It was really wonderful. What a great adventure. So great to see everybody. And like I said, a really visually stunning show that we've just seen. My name is Andy, and I'm your host in this VIP travel lounge. You will have seen me on the show earlier, so I'm back again. You can't get rid of me. I'm joined by a very special guest in the lounge, the one and only Mr. Peter Crane, who is Global Head of Product here at Wendy Wu Tours. Peter, good to see you.
Hi everybody. Good evening, everyone.
We have got you loud and clear. Peter is the man who knows everything about Japan. He is our Japan guru. So ladies and gentlemen, the lounge is your opportunity to relax, to find out everything that you need to know about traveling with Wendy Wu Tours on an escorted tour, traveling through Japan. It really is your opportunity to ask anything. We're going to be going through lots of information. We're going to be diving a bit deeper into what you can see and expect to see from Wendy Wu Tours in Japan. So if you have any questions, we're going to be covering a lot, but if you've got specific questions, then please do ask away. You can ask on the Zoom chat, and our colleagues are going to be monitoring the chat throughout. So any questions at all, just hit that chat and ask a question, and then we'll be coming to those questions throughout the show. So that's great. And also we'll be finding out more about those fantastic travel offers as well that you've heard of earlier in the show. So without further ado, let's dive into Japan. Peter, you ready?
Yes, I am. Go for it, Andy.
Good. Now, the question, the billion dollar question that we all want to know. Yes, Japan looks fantastic. We've seen it in the autumn colors. We've seen cherry blossom. We want to go, Peter. But when are we going to get the chance? What's happening?
Well, this is the best question to start with, because it's the one everyone's been wondering. Japan has been closed for 2.5 years for all international travel. So, you know, as many of you will be aware, the cherry blossom season in Japan is the peak operating season. We lost the cherry blossom in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So next year, 2023, will be the first cherry blossom in 4 years, which is a remarkable thing. The rumors are coming in thick and fast now that the borders are just about to reopen to Japan. The Japanese Prime Minister was in London a couple of weeks ago, and he had meetings with Boris Johnson, confirmed that the plan is to reopen Japan to visitors very shortly. Exactly what date the borders do reopen, nobody quite knows yet, but it will be soon. It will be this summer, we expect. So the tours we have departing this autumn, we're fully expecting to go ahead. And we have roughly 450 to 500 people already booked to travel in the autumn of this year. But there are spaces left on those tours. And then, of course, there's the cherry blossom season next year in 2023, where we're expecting the demand is going to be quite intense. So my advice on cherry blossom is not to leave it too late if you are thinking of booking Japan.
That's really exciting, Peter. I know I've seen lots of things in the news this week that Japan are going to be trialing this with small groups, I think, at the start, to see how it goes, and then planning to kind of, you know, open up fully later.
That's right, exactly. They're planning to invite their immediate neighbours, probably the South Korean market, the New Zealand, the Australian market, in immediately to test drive the reopening of tourism in Japan. And then the borders will open fully for the Europeans, for the Americans, and everyone else.
Brilliant, brilliant. So do you reckon we're going to see those autumn colours in Japan this year?
Yeah, for sure. Exactly what date we don't know, but the autumn is definitely going to happen.
Brilliant. Well, we are ready. The suitcases are packed, everybody, aren't they? So we're just waiting for those borders to open, and we are going to be out there. Peter, it brings me on to my next question, which I know is very popular, and I can see that's coming through on the chat. The best time to travel, when is it?
Well, the best time, in our opinion, to go to Japan is either the spring or the autumn. So if you're going in the springtime, reason is, the main reason is the cherry blossom, the sakura, which is the Japanese word for cherry blossom. It's not just the blossoms themselves, which are spectacular, but it's the whole cultural thing that goes with it. The Japanese people are in, they celebrate the cherry blossom in a very specific way, because for them, the blossoms, the fleeting blossoms on the trees represent the fleetingness of human life. So it's a kind of spiritual time to be in Japan as well. And in addition, the other season that we recommend traveling to Japan is during the autumn leaves season. I just lost my image there for a second, Andy. That distracted me. But yeah, the autumn leaves season, which runs really from mid-October through to the middle of November, depending on exactly what part of Japan you're in.
Okay. And yeah, because we heard Kate in the show saying that Sakura is like 10 days or something, that's it?
No, that's not quite the case. It starts, the Sakura starts in the south, as you imagine. Japan is quite a long, thin country, and the Sakura doesn't actually reach the north of Japan until much later.
Right. Okay, so it's a fairly long season then.
Yeah, I think the earliest departure we have next year, for example, is 17th of March. The latest departure is about 14th of April. But during that window, you'd expect to see the Sakura in full bloom. For most people, the optimal time is the last week of March and the first week of April.
Mm. When's your favorite time, Peter? Because I know you've traveled extensively in Japan. You know it everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad time to go to Japan, but if you could pick, for me, the Sakura, the cherry blossom, has to be the best. But I actually have a special, I've got a thing about the Japanese gardens, and if you get a chance to go to Japan in the autumn and see the Japanese gardens, which traditionally are built around a lake, to see the autumn colors reflecting on the lake, with the very specifically ornamental designs of those Japanese gardens, is a really special time to be there. And it's also slightly less busy, slightly less crowded in the autumn than it is in the spring. A lot of people say that May and September are also good times. It's just after the cherry blossom, but before the autumn leaf season starts. It's a slightly cheaper time of year to travel in Japan, and the sites are less busy. In May specifically, there's a really good opportunity to go to the sumo wrestling competitions, which are traditionally held in May. So if you want to witness real authentic sumo wrestling, May is the best time to go.
So much to see and do. It's just incredible. I've got to ask Peter, you know, Wendy Wu Tours, you know, says they are the UK's #1 specialist tour operator to Japan. So how is this, Peter? We want to know how and why are Wendy Wu Tours UK's #1?
We're really proud because we've won the Globe Travel Awards Specialist Tour Operator of the Year 12 years on a row. That's not just for our tours in Japan, but also in China, Vietnam, India, and other parts of the world. But in Japan specifically, we've built up what we think is the most comprehensive range of fully inclusive escorted tours in the country. We've been operating in Japan for nearly 15 years. We've become the UK's biggest outbound group tour operator into Japan, and there's a reason for that. A lot of our business is based on recommendations and referrals. So people travel with us to Japan, see the level of detail and specific expertise that we can bring to the itineraries, and then come home and tell their friends about it, and that's how the business grows. But it's what we take pride on in the product team, which I head up, is the real detail of the itinerary planning. So every hour of every day is spoken for. We make sure that you see the very best of what Japan has to offer, not just the highlights, but also all of those really special and unique and off-the-track experiences. So I did a count the other day, and there are actually 22 different local experiences you can do in Japan, or we do on our tours in Japan, to bring you into contact with the local people, learning how to do a particular handicraft, or tasting one of the food products, or the drink products, or just mingling with local farmers, for example, and learning how they grow their crops. Those kind of experiences happen every day on our trips, and it's those differences we think that set us apart from most of the other operators.
Amazing, amazing. And I know as well, the Wendy Wu tours, the actual group tours, they are all inclusive. I know some of us, we know what all inclusive means, but I know with Wendy Wu tours, it really is all inclusive. Is that right, Peter?
Yeah, and all inclusive in Japan, all inclusive means a great deal, because the cost of looking after yourself in Japan is quite high. Eating out is expensive. Traveling around is expensive. It's not a cheap country. So to have everything fully included in the package from the beginning does make a big difference. But for me, it's more than just the fully inclusive meals and services. It's the fact that, as I was saying just now, every hour of every day is planned for you to see as much as possible of the country in the time that you have and for the budget that you have. So, you'll be doing a tea ceremony, for example, which is a very traditional Japanese thing, learning how to do calligraphy, learning how to do origami, doing some miso tasting, perhaps doing some sake tasting, lots of different experiences. And that's what we mean by fully inclusive. All of that is built into the holiday. We're not asking you to pay extra for those kind of experiences.
Peter, you say, and I do like it. And this, for many of us, this is a holiday of a lifetime, and you want to see a lot. You want to really get the most out of every minute of the day whilst you're away. Do we get any free time?
Yes, we do. Of course, there's free time during every tour. There's free time built in, and we're very careful to do that, because it's not meant to be it's not meant to be exhausting. But in general, people will come back from a Wendy Wu tour saying we packed it in, because in general the idea is to see as much as you can in the time that you have. We're very aware on the longer tours, especially if you're traveling for 2 or 3 weeks, you'll want to have some half days here and there just to kind of rest up and recharge your batteries and do your own thing.
That's very important, actually, as well. I know there's lots of questions coming through on the chat. I can see those questions, which is brilliant. We love questions. So if you've got anything on your mind, do fire away on the Zoom chat. We're going to be covering more topics now, and then hopefully we will cover off some of those questions. I can see already that we have, but we will come back to those questions if there is anything that we haven't covered off. Peter, you talked about authentic experiences, which I know, again, Wendy Wu Tours prides itself on those really authentic, immersive experiences when you're away. In fact, I heard Wendy say recently that, we don't just take you to the country. We don't just take you to see the country. We take you to live incredibly in that country whilst you're there. And it really is a living experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't had the pleasure of going to Japan yet, but I'm going to be there as soon as those borders open, I tell you. And I really want to stay in a ryokan, Peter. So can I do that with Wendy Wu Tours, and how? It's something I've always wanted to do.
Yes, yeah, you can. On a couple of our tours, we include an overnight stay in a ryokan, which is for me, it's one of the most it's a fantastic experience to live in the very simple pared down Japanese guest house. Basically, the ryokan is the name for a guest house, and you sleep on a futon on the floor. The rooms are very spare. It's very minimalist design, right through from the outside of the building, through the public spaces, through to your individual bedrooms. Everything is beautifully designed with great simplicity. And the experience of going there is not to be missed. I think there are a couple of our tours where you will be able to stay in a ryokan. There's one called Journey Through Japan, which is a journey from north to south through starting in Hokkaido in the northernmost of the Japanese islands and traveling down through Honshu. And then there's another tour called Offbeat Japan. So if you're the sort of person that likes to be a little bit more adventurous and do some more alternative experiences and get off the beaten track, the tour I recommend is Offbeat Japan. You stay in the Ryokan, but you do lots of other experiences on that trip as well as seeing the highlights in Kyoto and Tokyo and the other major cities. For example, you get to visit a traditional temple and try your hand at drumming with monks in the early morning ceremony. So there's lots to enjoy on all of the tours. Off-beat Japan is the one if you're a more adventurous kind of traveler.
Great, thank you, Peter. And I know a common question that's coming up a lot is the hotels on tour. Obviously, not naming hotels at this stage, but what are the hotels like, and where are they? Are they close to the experiences, to the main sites? Are they a little bit out? Do we have to travel in?
No, what we're looking for in the hotels we use is first of all the standards of cleanliness and comfort that the customers would expect. So it's usually a four-star hotel. In some locations where there is no four-star option, we go for a good 3-star, but 80 or 90% of the hotels are 4 stars. And we choose the hotels based on their location. The location is absolutely key, because when we say the meals are fully inclusive, it's very rare that you'll sit down to eat your dinner in the hotel. Usually we go out somewhere a bit more interesting to eat, to a local restaurant to eat with the local people. So you want to be in the town centre or the city centre, close to the local restaurants and all the life. So location, cleanliness, comfort in the 4-star category is what you can expect.
Great, thanks, Peter. Again, I'm just going to come back to those experiences now. Obviously, all the iconic main sites and attractions are covered. But I know Wendy Wu Tours is renowned again for getting off the beaten track and taking you that step further to see, the sights, the sounds, the experiences that are off the main kind of tourist trail. So with that in mind, Peter, what can we expect when we get off the beaten track in Japan with Wendy Wu Tours? And what are your top highlights in that area?
There are so many, and for a lot of people visit Japan and focus on what they call the Golden Triangle, the triangle between Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, which have got the best and most famous of the historical sites. But for me, what Japan is all about is getting to, well, obviously to see those sites, but in addition, get a little bit off the beaten track. So on the tour I was talking about in the presentation, the Japan Uncovered tour, for example, you do a little circuit into the northern part of, or the northern, into the Japanese Alps, into the northern part of Honshu Island, and visiting the snow monkeys, for example, and witnessing them in their location is a really special experience. Whether you do it in the winter or the summer, it's an amazing experience. And seeing firsthand some more aspects of rural Japan, to visit the villages, see the rural way of life, as well as the big cities and all the famous sites. So there is plenty, and I could talk all day about all the list of experiences that we see in all different places, but I'm not sure we have all day. To pick one, for example, to experience a Japanese hot spring, the onsen is a really special thing. And on 3 or 4 of our tours, an onsen visit is included into the program. And it's just a chance to experience natural thermal waters in Japan and the Japanese way of thermal bathing.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. Now, with all these experiences and getting off the beaten track, Peter, how fit do we need to be? Do we need to be in training now?
No, certainly not. It's most of the tours are what we call activity level 1. So you need to be just averagely fit, able to walk and sightsee comfortably, walk up steps. You need to be mobile, in other words, stepping on and off the coach or on and off the train is all you need to be able to do, but you don't need to be fit by any means. And I would add that the average age of customers on the Wendy Wu Tours is 60 and above. So it's not, it's not, some of the tours are more active than others, and they might attract a slightly younger demographic, but most of the tours are activity level 1. There are 2 or 3 that are rated 2 or 3. So if you look at our website or look on the brochures, you can see each tour has got a rating, a physical rating next to it, and you can pick the trip that best suits your level of fitness.
Excellent, excellent. Now, food, Peter, food, something that is close to all of our hearts, especially as it's getting it's 7 o'clock now. I'm sure we're getting hungry. I love sushi, absolutely adore sushi, but I don't want to eat it every day. Yeah. What are we going to be doing, and what sort of food are we going to have on tour?
Well, there's so much more to Japanese cuisine than just sushi. I mean, sushi tends to be, it slightly caricatures the breadth of Japanese cuisine in the West is kind of pared down to just sushi. There's much more than that. So on a tour, at a typical restaurant, you'd be served your meal on a tray, and the tray usually holds about 6 individual portions of different dishes, and you pick and mix between the 6. And that's part of the experience. One of the best things that we've not really talked about is having your local, your national guide traveling with you. So when you go to the restaurant, rather than go in blind and eat what you hope is the right thing, you can be shown very specifically what you're eating and told what you're eating. Very often the regions of Japan all have their local specialities. So you will try all those local specialities depending on where you are. And by the time you leave, I think most people leave Japan thinking the food has been an absolute #1 highlight of their trip. The variety, the quality, the interest, because there's never a dull dish. Everything's got something going on. Whether you like it or not, it's interesting. And I would say that for people who don't want to eat Japanese food all the time, there are always Western options as well. So it's quite easy to sort of go 50-50 and have a little bit of Western cuisine, a little bit of Japanese cuisine during the course of the trip.
We're going to be in Japan. We are going to want Japanese food. I tell you, we're going to want to experience absolutely everything. And I'm really glad, actually, and a really important point, ladies and gentlemen, are the guides. The guides at Wendy Wu Tours are exceptional, and in fact, they're all trained. There's a school for training the guides, and they are, it is always the #1 thing that people comment on that when they come back and say it was the guide made it. I'm sure you'd agree, Peter. You know a lot of the guides.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree with that. Yeah, the guides do. They take a trip that would otherwise be good and make it brilliant, and that's their objective, and that's what we hear over and over and again from our customers. We do put a lot of emphasis onto the guides who we contract and the training and the preparation that we give them before they lead our tours.
Cool. Now, group size, Peter. Are we going to be traveling in groups of 50, 60? What sort of group size are we looking? Especially with all that demand for Japan.
Yeah, the demand is strong, but we're careful not to put to stick to small groups. So our maximum group size on our classic tours is 28. The average group sizes on those tours is usually about 20 to 24, which we think in Japan works really well. You'll notice on the program we have some what we call go beyond tours. And these are the ones that go a little bit more off the beaten track. On those tours, the maximum group size is 18. And the average size is more like 14 to 16 on those trips. So on a classic tour, the average group size 20 to 24. On a go beyond tour, 14 to 16, more or less.
And that's a really good number, actually, because that's sort of enough to obviously, make friends as you do on tour and have good company, but not too many so that you're going to feel, that you can't say anything, or you're maintaining that personal touch as well. Yeah.
The groups on a Wendy Wu tour are generally absolutely what makes the trip amazing, because the friendships that form are very much part of it. I should add that we sell our holidays throughout the English-speaking world. So on a typical Wendy Wu Tours group, we've got Australians, New Zealanders, people from the UK, people from Ireland, and sometimes others from America or other parts of the English-speaking world. So yeah, it's a good international mix on the tours, which I think really adds to it, because everyone shares the experiences in different ways. And as I said just now, some amazingly strong friendships get formed on the Wendy Wu tours, and very often people who make friends on a trip arrange to travel with each other on subsequent tours as well.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yep.
I'm going to touch, Peter, on solo travel. Solo travel is huge, absolutely huge now. I myself do like traveling solo as well. Are we, as a solo traveler, are we going to feel out of place on a Wendy Wu tours?
Not at all. No, on a typical group, about 30% of the group will be people traveling on their own.
30%, Peter?
Yeah, about 30%. So, you know, on one of our regular classic tours, maybe 6, 8 or 10 people in the group will be traveling alone. The others will be in couples or sometimes in small groups of 3 or 4. So that's on our standard tours. It's around 30% of the group are traveling on their own. Then we do in addition have a handful of departures that are ring fenced specifically for solo travelers. So what some of our solo travelers have told us is they enjoy traveling with others like themselves. So there are some departures of our Japan Uncovered tour and our Discover Japan tour and our Jewels of Japan tour, which are reserved exclusively for solo travelers. And on those tours, we do it slightly differently. We limit the maximum group size to just 18, just to make it a slightly smaller, more intimate group. We also include a chauffeur transfer to the airport in the UK, and we include a welcome cocktail on arrival, and a few other features and benefits just to make the solo tours feel a little bit different.
Do you know what I find interesting, Peter? And in fact, actually, I'm going to let you into a secret now, ladies and gentlemen. One of my neighbours is a frequent traveller with Wendy Wu tours. She travels solo, but she is with a partner. But actually, it's quite interesting, like talking to her, because a lot of people who are in relationships, you know, great, but they actually like the experience of traveling on their own at times.
Well, we find that happens again and again. There are lots of people who are traveling solo who are definitely not single. So either they and their other half enjoy different kinds of holidays, or they just one can't travel for work reasons, whereas the other is able to travel. So you know, people often do that, and it works really well.
Oh, that's wonderful. We heard about some cracking offers earlier, Peter, for Japan. Tell us a little bit more.
Well, we do. Right now, we do have a very strong offer available, which is what we call partner flies free. So what it means is that if you're booking as a couple of one of our Japan tours, we will pay for the flight for one of the we will pay for one of the 2 flights, which is an amazing deal. The cost of a flight to Japan at the moment is about £800, or sometimes 900. But we will cover the cost of one of those flights for a couple. If you're traveling on your own, if you're a solo traveler, we'll pay for half of the cost of your flight, which is the equivalent level of discount. Yep.
That's great. And are these just valid for this year, 2022, or?
No, it's valid on all departures right through until December 2023.
Okay.
But the offer is only available until Monday, the 6th of June. So it's another 2 and a bit weeks to go.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. I know we've covered an awful lot there, ladies and gentlemen. Denise, I'm going to swing over to you. I know you've been busy on the chat, Denise.
Yes.
Is there anything that's come up that we haven't covered?
Yeah, so somebody's asking Shirley about, do you do tours of Tokyo in just 2 to 3 days?
Peter? Yes, we do. We've got a range of extensions available on throughout Japan, and what we call short stays. They're available. The best thing is to ring up our reservations team and inquire about it, and we can give you exactly the details that you're looking for, including a quote. But the range of extensions includes the key cities, but also parts of Japan such as Sapporo, Nikko, Kamakura. We also offer stopovers on the way to Japan, or on your return journey. If you're flying via the Gulf, you can stop in Dubai, for example, or if you're flying via Bangkok or Singapore, we can arrange stopovers in those cities. So there are lots of options either to extend your stay in Japan with an extension in Japan itself, or do a stopover tour from Japan. Occasionally, people do travel and just book an extension with us and do their own independent traveling in addition to that, which is perfectly doable. It's very flexible. The best thing is to call the reservations team and make the inquiry.
That's right. And Peter, you can do, I mean, again, that extends private touring, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
So private touring we offer on all of the destinations we offer around the world. I have to say, in Japan, the best way to travel in Japan in terms of value for money is in a group, because the services of the guides and the cost of transportation in particular is so high that to do it independently is, people do obviously, but it's people are very often surprised at how high the quote is to cover those costs individually. It's much better to share those costs amongst a whole group.
Thank you, Peter. Denise, any other areas?
Sure. A couple of people have said they'd be a bit nervous when they're on a single tour traveling alone. How would you kind of answer that? How would you kind of comfort them that that would not be the case, that they wouldn't be all alone on a singles tour, that they might be a little bit nervous, they're saying, and how do you
yeah, Denise, that's just not how it is. As soon as you arrive, you're kind of brought into the group, and everybody, for anybody who's not experienced group travel before, it's a very supportive thing. Everyone looks after each other, and what we think it makes our tours, the fully inclusive Wendy Wu tour, very suitable for solo travelers, is the fully inclusive nature of it. So at meal times, you are always with other people. There's never that fear that you're kind of having dinner all by yourself, or having lunch all by yourself, or looking around a temple or a site all by yourself. You're always with the other people in the group, unless you choose not to be. If you want to opt out at any point, obviously that's possible. But there's no need to worry about being on your own, either from a sort of loneliness point of view or from a sort of coping point of view. You always got the guide with you, and you've got your fellow travelers around you. So there's it's the best way to travel if you are alone, in my opinion.
I think, Peter, you've said before, I know, talking about this on solo travel, that with Wendy Tours, you're pretty sort of, to coin a phrase, sort of handheld throughout the experience.
That's right, and some people really value that. Others are more confident travelers. Once you've done one of our tours once, I think it's, people will be very relaxed really from the first day onwards. As soon as you arrive and you're in the care of the national guide, and you have the other travelers around you, people do relax very quickly, and it becomes a really close bonded group very often by the end.
And I think, again, I'm sure everybody will agree, what with everything that we've been through in the last few years, it really has made us think and appreciate the world and travel, and just how amazing it is mentally as well, how much we can get out of traveling. So I think if there is anybody who's apprehensive, who's thinking, should I, shouldn't I, can I do it, can't I do it, I think absolutely go for it. Now is the time to do it. Denise, any other?
Sounds absolutely perfect. Thank you. Another question is what's the average time for the coach journeys on a daily basis when you're traveling around by coach? The average time per day?
That's a good question. So it really varies. It varies a lot from one trip to another. But on for example, the Japan Uncovered tour, which is our most popular tour in Japan, I would guess the average per day when you're traveling between one city and another is about 4 hours, maybe a bit less. But you keep in mind that you're not necessarily traveling every day. When you stop for 2 or 3 nights in Kyoto or in Tokyo, you're doing sightseeing within the city. So but between the cities or the stops, on average, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe 5. Then we've got a couple of longer trips. Journey through Japan, which travels the whole length of the island. And our most recent launch was a new trip called Japan by Rail, where all the journeys are done by railway, obviously. And that does do some amazing journeys covers the key 3 islands of Japan from south to north, and includes, I think, 15 separate rail journeys, some of them on bullet trains, some of them on the local express trains, but they're all spectacular journeys in their own right. So in my opinion, traveling through Japan, whether you're on a train or by coach, is not dead time. That's time when you're actually seeing the landscape, the surroundings, observing rural life, the villages and towns you're passing through. It's part of the experience.
And I know, Peter, a couple of those journeys have been featured on, the most scenic railway journeys in the world. Just purely amazing sights. Denise, any other questions?
Good question about packing, actually. With all the traveling, how do you suggest you pack for the tour?
Well, we've got some general packing recommendations in our brochures and on our website. But I think it's for Japan, and on our tours in general, it's quite easy to pack. Because everything's taken care of. There's no need for formal dress. We don't. There's no sort of proper formal dressing up. There's no need for that. The only thing we recommend is not to overload yourself, but overpack, because it's just it's less easy to move your bag around if you've got more stuff than you need. And it's always a good idea, especially in a country like Japan, to leave space to bring those souvenirs back home at the end. You will find things in Japan that you want to buy and bring home. It's just one of those places. Some of the Japanese produce is just beautiful to bring home. It's very gift friendly, and you must leave some space for the return journey in your suitcase.
What Peter's trying to say is you're going to go shopping crazy.
Not necessarily, but there's some good opportunities, Andy. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
Excellent. I think, how are we doing, Denise? More?
Another question about dietary requirements. Somebody who's gluten-free, how are they catered for during the tours?
Good question.
That's in Japan. That's absolutely fine. In fact, in nearly all our tours, we do, in a typical group with 20 or 24 people, there are a range of different dietary requirements, from gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan, no pescatarian, etc. There's absolutely no problem with any of that in Japan. So as long as you let us know when you make the booking what the dietary requirement is, when we send all of the details across to our partner in Japan, it's very clearly spelled out exactly what every customer can and can't eat. And I think over all the years we've operated, we've never had any difficulty meeting the requirements of any specific dietary needs.
Wonderful. Good.
Great. Another food related question is it just the sort of standard breakfast, lunch and dinner, or are there other feeding sessions this gentleman has put included, and what drinks are available throughout the day? So just a general idea of the food and drink throughout the tour.
Okay, so breakfast is I think almost always, or possibly always, kind of buffet style, and there are Japanese choices and Western choices, because I think some people at breakfast time just prefer to eat food that they're kind of less challenging, more in their comfort zone. So you've got a choice between Japanese breakfast and Western breakfast. At lunches and dinners, there's, as I said, we aim to find the best local restaurants and try the local specialities. So the aim is to try as many different things as you can and see what you like. But there's always a Western choice as well for anybody who feels uneasy about the different tastes in Japanese cuisine. Alongside that, during the trip there are often tasting opportunities. I think I mentioned that before. So miso tasting, for example, or sake tasting. What else? Wasabi. If we visit a wasabi farm and try the produce, and probably about half dozen or more tasting experience as we go. Going into a Japanese pastry shop and just trying the local sweets and delicatessens is a real, that's something you must do when you're in Japan. And your guide will take you into one or two of those along the way, just to experience trying some of the local Japanese pastries, which are delicious and beautifully presented. So yeah, the food is always a highlight, whether it's the formal meals or the between meal snacks. There's always something going on. I'm sorry, the question about the water, or the drinks rather, we do provide water every day free of charge, but the alcoholic drinks at meal times are normally payable extra. And the Japanese traditionally drink sake with their meal. So some people develop a taste for it, some don't. So if you want to try sakes, there are lots and lots of different varieties that you can enjoy. Some is amazingly high quality and very expensive. Others is basically the local sakes that the locals drink, and they're also really good. But you need to try everything when you're there. It's part of the experience.
You're making me really peckish now.
No, I'm thinking the same. I'm sure we all are. Peter, stop it. No more on food.
The final question here about a budget of £6,000 for a couple who are going to be on honeymoon. Is that something that you would be able to accommodate at Wendy Wu Tours?
So on a honeymoon is a little bit tricky for a fully inclusive tour. So if somebody were to join one of our group tours on their honeymoon, they wouldn't be the first, but it is quite unusual. And most people prefer to travel on their own on their honeymoon. And as I said earlier on, traveling in Japan independently is a little bit difficult because it is more expensive. Budget of £6,000 is doable, but I think you wouldn't be able to stay very long in Japan for two people for that sum. If we're talking about £6,000 flight inclusive, that's kind of towards the bottom end of what you would expect to pay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. That's all the questions.
That feels a bit mean answering that question that way, especially if somebody's planning their honeymoon. I want to be a bit more positive, but I guess after you pay for the wedding, there's pretty not much left. But that's just the way it is.
But it's worth. I'd say it's definitely worth speaking to the team. Yeah, great. Denise, any more?
I think we've pretty much covered.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed it, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly with all that talk about food, I know I'm really ready for dinner. It's been great to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time to watch the show and to be with us here in the Travel Lounge, for taking this time out of your evening. If you have any more questions, if you think about anything after the show today, you can always email, call us. There is a chat facility on our website as well, direct on the homepage. So you can chat to us at any time with any questions that you've got. And do remember those offers as well, the partner flies free, which is valid until June the 6th, Peter, did you say? You've got
until June the 6th, correct.
June the 6th, yeah. But that's for departures for this year and 23 with a £99 deposit, Peter?
Yes, we didn't talk about that, but we've got a flexible booking offer at the moment, which we've been running during the pandemic. It's still running now. It won't go on forever, but you can book with a deposit of £99 per person, and in addition, you're not required to make your final balance payment until 6 weeks before departure.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you get the advantage of the offer, and you can travel next year, pay £99.
That's right.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely to see you. Again, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. As I say, any more questions, you can email, telephone, chat with us on the website. But we really do look forward to having you with us on tour in Japan. Can't wait for that. And let's hope those borders open really quickly now.
And just finally, just to say on behalf of Restless, thank you so much to Wendy Wu Tours for that amazing presentation. And the presentation actually will be live on our site in the next few days. So if anyone wants a recap or wants to share it with friends and family, it's all there for you to take a look at again and see those amazing sights of Japan. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Denise. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will see you very soon with us in Japan. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you again soon.